Somewhere between the age of 7 and 10, when I was a young child, I was at a church service. There was a fire and brimstone style preacher that had been visiting our church. And he was talking about how if we're not saved, we're going to go to hell and burn in this like burning lake of sulfur and fire, and it's going to be really scary and painful forever. So I'm like, I don't want to do that.
I had grown up going to an Anglican church, but we did church and came home, and really that was it. I didn't really have a relationship with Christ.
Well, when I was growing up, I grew up in a different church that was very strict in its ways. And the God they were telling me about at that time wasn't what I perceived. I always thought it was wrong. It was a punishing God.
At that point, it became a fear issue where I was afraid of the consequences of not accepting Jesus. I remember that night before I went to bed, I asked Jesus into my life, and the journey began then.
So I came to faith in my university years. I was sharing a house with some girls who were Christians, and they were just examples of a life in faith to me. So I was really drawn to just something about them and their lifestyles, and they shared with me, and I started to go to church with them, and came to faith then, during that time.
The teen years were very difficult. There was some major events within our family that tore me apart. I'm almost thinking that I kind of gave up on the Christian faith thing, and I still went to church regularly. I still went to youth events and stuff, but it wasn't a solid faith at that point. And sometime, I believe in my early 20s, a friend of mine from high school we were meeting for coffee. His father had been a pastor. We were just talking, and he was sharing his faith with me, and I really felt that at that point I needed to make an adult commitment to following Jesus, because it wasn't working. It wasn't working staying away from God. So I went back to what I knew and realized that God is the one who's all loving, and a relationship with Him is where I can stay rooted and grounded, and it gives me hope.
All those girls that I lived with, and then through them I met other members of the church. One particular lady was braiding my hair, so we were sat in her house for 4 or 6 hours or something like that, and so she just talked to me about becoming a Christian and taking that step and not being afraid, and it was her who finally said that prayer with me when I made a decision.
We were kids. I stole some candy at a store. I think some kids have that experience. Stole candy at the store, and I figured, my conscience was pretty rough on me even back then. I figured because of that, I was going to burn in purgatory forever anyway. So whatever I did from that point, what did it matter? God wasn't going to care about me. I felt that way for a long time, and I got into drugs and alcohol in my high school years. And I thought, this is it. It's going to be a way of life, Drugs and rock and roll, just party life. And it got to a point in my life where I was physically, spiritually, and financially broke on the streets. I was kicked out of everywhere I lived. Nobody wanted me around. And somebody mentioned a treatment center. So I went to a treatment center in Toronto for drugs and alcohol. And at that point in my life, I was ready. I was hurting so bad inside, I just knew that I had to do something. I just prayed. And for the first time in my life, I meant it. I meant it. It was simple. It's just, God help me. But something was different. Something was really different. And I swear, I don't know how it happened. I didn't see anything. It just, I was so calm and so at peace inside because I knew God finally was with me. He was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself.
Now, many years later, the thing I find most helpful, I think of Joshua 1:8, meditate on the word day and night. Just keep it in me and keep it flowing through me so that I can stay connected to the source, right, the light.
I think it's changed in that I found a purpose to life. I found peace from, a lot of anxiety and confusion about life as well. And now I feel like I don't know where I'd be, how I'd walk through this world, through the complexities of everyday life, without having Jesus as my center, as a place to start from, a place of guidance and of comfort. So that's what it means to me now.
If it wasn't for God's love, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have found this church. Meeting my wife, Lorinda, that was the biggest thing. I can't explain how beautiful she is. And she brought me here. And the first time I walked in these doors, I could feel it. Same thing, I can't explain it. But it is so good. What I've heard and learned and saw with people in this church, these are the people that I want to be like. These are the people I need to share and learn from.
Share your story, right? Share what God's done for you and how a relationship with Him can help you have hope.
How can I be of help to get the word of Jesus out to the community, to get it to people? I find that being an example is wonderful. It makes a world of difference.
I think it starts with forming relationships, because I think that was the beginning for me. I knew them first as friends, and they were just examples, and they were just friends, and they were just, I think that sort of drew me in, and then it led to deeper relationships and deeper conversations before getting there. So I think you have to get to know people and know where they're at, and then you can take that next step.
This is awesome. This way of life, God's way of living. And through Jesus, this is where it is.